What is up, everybody, and welcome on in to another installment of the Fast Five, presented as always by our friends over at SuperBook Sports. I'm AP in Colorado. You can follow me at Media by AP across the socials. And my good friend back from what was it, a bachelor weekend? I think you were running around last weekend.
Yeah, a wedding in Indianapolis. It was good to get away for a little bit and get out of the Vegas heat, but it was still humid out there. But it was a good time.
Yeah, well, you didn't exactly come back to the most action-packed sports week. This is considered to be the dead period for a lot of sports fans and whatnot, but the show must go on, as we say here on the Fast Five with AP and Unit. But I actually kind of like this little – I'm actually itching for baseball. Like, I'm ready for Friday to come around so I could start getting back into betting on the SuperBook app and all that kind of stuff. But I really don't mind, especially because the Nuggets, and I'm rocking my –
I like that. Nice shirt.
But like because the Nuggets had played for so long, I was actually okay with a little bit of a week pause with everything. But I'm excited to get back after it.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure what to do with myself the past few nights. It was nice watching the home run derby and the All-Star game, but yesterday I was just like, "What do I do?" I had to go outside, take a walk, get some fresh air.
Yeah.
I could sit on my couch and watch and bet sports all night. I was lost on what to put on the TV, so I was just watching random YouTube videos.
I was a changed man. I went outside and read a book. I went to the pool one day, like things that would normally probably not happen because I'm watching and betting sports all the time. But we'll get back into it. Of course, we have an all-star game that we can talk about.
You were getting ready for that.
I'm actually just about to buy that thing. I'm not even kidding you because I'm getting ready to do all my football research and knowledge. I've been doing a little bit, but I'm going to set some time aside here one of these days and just dive in. But yeah, man, football season on the horizon. We found out the Jets are going to be the team on the Hard Knocks, which I think should be interesting with everything going on with them. Lil Wayne shouted out Coach Prime at the ESPYs in the middle of his rap last night. So football's on the mind. And, of course, we'll mix in a little football as well as we go along. But as always, folks, if you're trying to get your bets in, there's no sportsbook better to do it with than our friends over at SuperBook Sports. When you use promo code APBETS, you'll get yourself a nice little bonus of up to $250. And that's available in all the states that SuperBook are currently operating in. That includes Colorado, Arizona, Iowa, Tennessee, New Jersey, Ohio, Maryland, Nevada, among others coming soon. So keep an eye on that. Promo code APBETS. Get your bets down with SuperBook Sports, and away we go. All right, brother, let's start with the All-Star game here. You and I are baseball fans. National League takes down the American League 3-2. First time they've won an All-Star game since 2012. Been a minute. You and I were probably still in high school the last time the National League won a All-Star game, now that I think about it from that perspective. Your thoughts as my guy, Elias Diaz, with the go-ahead home run late.
Yeah, that was definitely a surprise, but I always kind of like this time of the year where you get the few days away from the regular season, and then it just feels like, peak summer. I always remembered, just coming in from a hot day, and then you get into the AC, and then you throw on the All-Star game. You get all the lineups announced and everything, and it always seems to be a pretty low-scoring game. But I enjoyed it, watching some great plays, especially that first inning right away, right off the bat. Deep ball to left field, great catch. Deep ball to right field, great catch. And then Diaz winning MVP. That was pretty crazy. I think we had him at 60-1. The only guy behind him was, I believe, a relief pitcher. So that was about as crazy bet as you could place. I think we had quite a bit of bets on him, but they were all like $5, which that's still a $300 win at 60-1. So you didn't happen to bet him, did you?
I did not. And it's funny. I was actually out to dinner with a buddy before the game even started. And I made a joke about like, it's so stupid that there's this one person per team requirement, whole thing. Like who is this guy? He's a good player, but it's like all-star caliber. And then proves me wrong, put my foot in my mouth. Kodak moment for him in his first all-star game. You said what, 60-1 odds? I mean, that's a pizza bet. Like that, if I had bet it, that's a $5, $10, $15 bet. Anybody that was betting big money on Diaz, I don't know what Maybe you're from like Back to the Future 2 or something like that with the almanac. But no, it was a cool moment, man. And I like the fact that it's someone who's a little bit lesser known and a journeyman in his 30s, first All-Star game appearance. I feel like that made it feel a little special, especially for us here in Colorado.
Yeah, it was. I saw all over Twitter everyone talking about it was just another thing in the trophy case for Denver. It seems like Colorado can't seem to lose right now when it comes to pretty much every sport.
Yeah, no, we're on fire. I can't believe it had been so long since the National League had won an All-Star game. I actually, in researching for the show, I just went back and like looked at what the rosters were like for the last time that the National League won the All-Star game. And like for the NL, you had guys like Chipper Jones, Beltran, Rafael Furcal, Matt Holliday, David Wright, Melky Cabrera, Dan Ugla, Cargo, Jose Altuve on the Astros in the NL. Way back when in 2012 was on that All-Star team. And then in the American League, you had like Jeter, Poppy, Beltray, Josh Hamilton. Remember Fernando Rodney? He was on that All-Star team. Prince Fielder, Curtis Granderson, David Price. So it's been a long time. I was just like, all those names brings me back to when I was younger. It's been that long since the National League has won an All-Star game.
Yeah, it was. I saw on Twitter also the Cubs guy, they fell victim to the same thing the Rockies this year, they had that one requirement guy. The Cubs was Brian LaHare, and I don't think he ever even played in the MLB after that. He somehow got into the All-Star game that year, and I don't think he ever played another game in the MLB.
Yeah, it's weird how that all works. And there's that new. Have you seen? It's like the Sudoku for baseball. I forget what they call it.
Actually, grid.
Yeah, like I've been loving that because if there's a sport, like I don't know, you and I are baseball guys, so it makes sense. And I was out to dinner with a baseball guy on Monday. If there's a sport where you can just sit around and rattle off random names and just like build conversations off of that, it's baseball. And I feel like this new game that's going around has just been so fun because like I was like going through some names today, different teams, different, criteria. I think we said it last week, for the non-baseball people, don't even try because the core baseball fans, I love that community, man. It's my favorite community to be a part of.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult. I like to do it like first thing in the morning when they come out with a new one. It's definitely gets my brain churning. It gets pretty difficult. And then when you see the people posting their results on Twitter, it brings back memories of guys that I just completely forgot about or haven't even thought of in 10 years or whatever. But it's been fun. I've been having a lot of fun playing that Immaculate Grid.
Yes, I am a big fan. One last thought on the All-Star game, which I thought was kind of funny, is for Mile High Sports, where I work here in Colorado, we actually about 2 weeks ago were in the Rockies clubhouse interviewing different players, and the prompt was, if there was an all-Rockies home run derby, who would you choose? I think there was a few people that chose Diaz, but Diaz himself chose C.J. Cron. And I know that he didn't hit a home run in the derby, but I did think that it was hilarious that he, of all players on that team, who did not want to even consider himself when we asked him the question, ends up hitting the go-ahead home run, win a National League All-Star Game MVP. So it was just a cool moment, man. I was excited about that one. But the second half is upon us, and my Mets down and out. We'll talk about them. Padres, what's going on? Yanks, what's going on? Cincinnati, Arizona, what's going on? Second half of Major League Baseball, get ready to start up this weekend. What's been your overall kind of feel going into the second half of the year? Some teams that you're high or low on?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a ton of surprises. It's been a really fun MLB season. I think maybe one of the best first halves that I can remember to date is just because we've got a lot of these young, exciting guys that you talk every week about Ellie De La Cruz and Corbin Carroll, all these young up-and-coming guys, but also the new rules. I think the pitch clock has improved the game a lot. We're seeing more stolen bases. The game is going quicker. Everything's more exciting. I feel like these players are extremely marketable now. Like Ohtani every night hitting a home run. It seems like baseball is on the up and up, and the start of it was the first half of the season. So I'm really looking forward to the second half, especially if some of these teams could turn around. That we expected to have a great start to this season that didn't and fell a little short. And then also to see if these teams that have been surprises this year could keep it up and into the playoffs. Maybe we could get a new champion this year or some new faces in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like there's a youth movement of sorts going on across the sport. You mentioned a lot of the young names. I don't know. It just feels like, and I know we just talked about the All-Star game, but like Julio Rodriguez's first round, I mean, he took down my guy, Pete Alonso. I almost wanted to stand up and start clapping. And I know it's a derby and it's batting practice, but it's like moonshot, moonshot, moonshot. And I know he hasn't even had the best year after having a tremendous campaign last year. And so there's just a litany of young talent, I feel like, just coming up through the pipes right now for Major League Baseball. And I'm excited to see how that second half shakes out. We'll talk about the Reds here, the Diamondbacks, teams that we didn't really think much of before the year. They now find themselves in prime position if they could play well in the second half to make the postseason. But correct me if I'm wrong. I'd say the four most disappointing teams so far in Major League Baseball, 3 in the NL, and 1 in the AL. Padres, Mets, Cardinals, Yankees. In my opinion, those are the 4 teams that I think, relative to expectations before the season started, have wet the bed the most.
Yeah, if you're talking just expectations alone, it's got to be those teams. I mean, going into this year, if you ask me who's got like the scariest lineup in baseball, I would say the Cardinals and Padres would be like the 2 of the first teams, and even the Yankees that would come out of my mouth. And these guys, this team has been, all 3 of them have been terrible. And then also the Mets. I mean, I don't know if it's too late or not for these teams, but if it's not, it's getting real close.
I think there's a couple teams that are cooked, if I'm being honest with you. Like the Yankees have an above 500 record, and I mean, Baltimore's been great. Boston's been above average. Tampa's been great. I feel like the Yankees, as much as it pains me to say it, you don't have Aaron Judge. You haven't had him for quite some time. Garrett Cole has been sensational this season up until the big game. We'll wait for the postseason. But, you know, I would think the Yankees will figure out a way to turn it around. I mean, there are 3 series coming out of the All-Star break here. They're actually in Colorado this weekend against the Rockies, and they go against the Angels, who have been a little up and down this year, and the Kansas City Royals. So you think of the 3 series coming out of the break for the Yanks, and, you know, relatively soft landing for a team that's looking to get some momentum. But the Padres and the Mets, man, you look at that National League wildcard race right now, and granted, it's because of teams like Arizona and Cincinnati and, you know, these other teams that are just kind of coming out of nowhere. I don't know what to make. I'll start with the Mets. Cooked. I do not want to see them buy at the deadline whatsoever. Let's wait. I don't want to wave the white flag, but let's acknowledge that you've got 2 young guys in Brett Baty and Francisco Alvarez that have shown you something. The idea of having 2 40-year-old starting pitchers in Carlos Carrasco, who I believe is 36, was never a sustainable idea. You know, the Mets, even coming out of the break, they got the Dodgers, White Sox, and Boston. So I don't know. I feel like the Padres, of the teams that we talked about, we saw St. Louis already acknowledging that they're going to wave the flag at the deadline. If there's a team of the ones that we brought up that could turn it around after a disappointing first half, I think it's San Diego. I like their manager. And as you mentioned, going, you know, into the season on paper, their lineup was daunting.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you. I think it's got to be the Padres. I mean, out of all those teams that we mentioned, I think they're the best ones. Just, I mean, the Yankees have the better record, but I mean, they're going to have a tougher time. So just looking at the NFL or the NL right now, the Padres have a positive win differential.
Yeah.
And none of those other disappointing teams that we mentioned do. So there's been a few times where they've missed opportunities. And hearing Juan Soto actually in the All-Star break talking about how they're leaving that first half behind them, and then you know, looking forward to the second half. I really think that they're gonna maybe make a few moves, but also just turn it around, even with the guys that they have right now.
Well,
they started the season without Tatis. They started the season extremely slow, and now could have an opportunity to finally put some things together and make up some ground in that division.
Machado's head wasn't into it, with the contract stuff. Maybe that played a role into it as well. Musgrove was a little up and down early. I mean, there's so much talent, and I understand that baseball is a very difficult sport. It's far from easy, but you would think, and you bring up the run differential, if there's a team that would turn it around in the National League, I mean, I would think that it's going to be San Diego. And I mean, it's crazy to look at these odds on the Superbook app. I mean, if you're a believer in San Diego, you talked about, if you believe in what Juan Soto is saying, I'm looking at 20-1 odds right now to win the National League pennant, which is insane for a team with all that talent. I mean, Yu Darvish has been bad. I just traded him in my fantasy league. I don't know. It just feels like they've played well below expectations. Like, compare the Padres to the Mets. The Mets don't have near the amount of talent as San Diego does, despite the payroll and whatnot.
Oh, absolutely not.
And you've got the trade deadline coming up too, so maybe something happens with San Diego on that front. We'll see. But let's turn the page here to some of the teams that have been good. We talked about them. Cincinnati at 50-41, Arizona at 52-39. Seeing, believing, are you buying the hype? Is this sustainable for Cincinnati and Arizona?
To start with Cincinnati, I think in the NL Central, it's going to come down to who wants to win the division this year. I think all the teams right now are kind of on that line. Should we buy? Should we sell? And I think they're kind of just waiting to see what all the other teams do. So it's going to come down to who is buying. Obviously, Cincinnati cannot keep up what they're doing right now. It'd be the best team of all time if they did this for the entire second half of the season. So if they're going to win the division, they're going to win the division with like 85, 86, all the way up to maybe 88 wins. It's the team that wins that division is not going to have a very great record. And it's going to come down to really a 3-team race right now between the Reds and Brewers, and then the Cubs if they decide to make any moves.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. That wild card in the National League is going to be fun down the stretch here. I mean, the teams we talked about, the Mets 7 games behind, San Diego 6 games behind. We'll see, the Dodgers are in that mix. We'll see what happens with Arizona and Cincinnati, Milwaukee, as you bring up as well. So I'm excited, man. This is, the meat and potatoes trade deadline in Major League Baseball. To me, is the best trade deadline in any sport. So, we're getting down to it, the dog days of summer, as we like to say. But one quick rant before we move along to the fight game. The New York Yankees announced that they are going to have a jersey sponsor patch right on the side of the jersey. And, not uncommon. The Mets do it. A lot of other teams have started to do it. Yeah, NBA, Major League Baseball, nobody's excluded from this right now. This is kind of becoming the norm of professional sports. European soccer's been this way for a long time. I just think it's absolutely hilarious that the same franchise that has the no facial hair policy, the same franchise that has no City Connect jerseys, has 2 jerseys, no name on the back of the jersey. The moment a $25 million per year offer to have a logo on the side of your jersey is presented their way, floodgates are open. And it's just, look, I understand it's the way that business works and everything along those lines. But again, no facial hair policy. Pride and joy for that organization. They talk about how they're the classy men of New York, different than everybody in baseball. Cut above is like how some people like to say it. The moment money is thrown their way to make an extra buck off of the jersey, $25 million at that, they jump at it. So I just had to talk about that. You can't have facial hair. I forget the kid's name. Had to cut it. Clint Frazier had to cut his hair all those years ago. They don't want to have a City Connect jersey, but they will take $25 million from a sponsor. Corporate greed wins again, my friend.
Yeah, Star Insurance. I've never even heard of that, but it doesn't look completely out of place on the jersey. It's kind of the same colors and everything.
I just think it's ironic because, you know what I'm saying, though.
Yeah. I will say, though, I think that the whole pinstripes thing or how important it is, that's overrated. You think you're the only historic baseball team?
I agree.
It's, they haven't done anything in our lifetime for the most part. So
Fenway's still standing. Wrigley's still standing. Yankee Stadium demolished, forgotten, and they built what I've never been to the new one, but even actual Yankees fans talk about how much they hate that place or how much it doesn't feel like the old Yankee Stadium. Could you imagine they tore down Wrigley? I don't want to dive into this. It was like, how do you tear down Yankee Stadium? It's where Babe Ruth played.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, at least renovate it like they've done with Wrigley and Fenway.
Yeah, it is what it is. I had to get that off my chest. Let's move along here. The fight game. We got we got one big fight announced and a hypothetical fight. Let's start with the fight that we know about, my friend, and that is Francis Ngannou getting ready to make the big payday with Tyson Fury. They're going to do a boxing match out there in Abu Dhabi. I know some of the logistics are still being worked out and kind of the overall rules and all that kind of stuff. So keep an eye out for when this is all finalized. But it's moving forward. Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury, they're going to fight. What do you make of this? Do you buy this? Are you excited? I mean, Tyson Fury's probably the best heavyweight boxer of our generation. Francis Ngannou's been a name in the fight game for a little while now. Where are you at? It's got some juice for you?
Yeah, I think it's actually in Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia.
I don't know.
Is it Abu Dhabi in Saudi Arabia?
I don't know. I have no clue. I'm not a geologist.
Saudi Arabia.
But I guess it's kind of an interesting fight. We'll see exactly. I don't know if they have like the full rules and everything, how many rounds or what it's going to look like. But I think it would be better if it was kickboxing because obviously Fury has a big advantage. He's going to be a pretty hefty favorite if it's just a regular boxing match. But I think if they add something like kickboxing, that might help it be a little more even because, one, that's going to change your training camps. Obviously, if there's kicking allowed, Ngannou's going to have the advantage on that. But it's also going to force Fury in his training camp, who's obviously a better boxer, to train on defending those kicks. And it's going to change how the fight looks. So that would make it a much closer fight. So I think that would make it a lot more interesting and gauge my interest more. But as of right now, I feel like the fight won't be for a super long time. So I'm looking forward to more other fights coming up ahead of that one. This one's not getting me excited just yet, but I guess we'll see as it comes closer whenever they.
Yeah, it's not as gimmicky as like Jake Paul. Two guys that are, in the prime of their career. So like there is some intrigue. I also think there's some intrigue because it's heavyweights. That's always, kind of moving the needle for fight fans and casual fans alike. But I can't name a single gimmick fight or a fight that's kind of put together like this that has worked out or is actually, I've walked away from the fight feeling like I got something. Even like Mayweather Pacquiao, which was like an actual boxing fight. Mayweather McGregor, all the Jake Paul stuff. It just never, the hype is never, living up to what it actually is. So we'll see how it shakes out. Now, a fight that if it did happen, that I think would live up to the hype would be in the UFC. And Bo Nickal, we talked about it last week, the heaviest favorite in UFC history, takes down his opponent in short order. I mean, this guy has not broke a sweat, it seems like, in his time in the UFC. And the other, daunting force in the UFC right now is Khamzat Chimaev. And there's some speculation that maybe these guys want to fight. I believe, was it Bo came out after his fight and said that he wants to make this happen? But you want to talk about, what is it, the unstoppable force meets the immovable object? That would be Khamzat Chimaev and Bo Nickal if that fight came to fruition.
Yeah, that fight is, I mean, pretty much before Bo Nickal even got to the UFC, I think people have had their eyes on when that, those two guys would just meet in the octagon. And, you got a guy like Khamzat Chimaev who, both their styles kind of match up. I mean, Bo Nickal has been an elite college wrestler. We've seen what Khamzat Chimaev has done in the UFC. And it sounded like Bo Nickal wants to do it for that title next year at some point at Allegiant Stadium. Can you imagine that? In Vegas, filling up a football stadium, that would be pretty crazy. I feel like if you were sitting in the nosebleeds, you wouldn't be able to see anything. You'd be better off watching it on your TV. But we'll see how that looks. It would still be an electric scene, though, if they were to have the fights there.
I think Canelo Alvarez has done a few fights in football arenas, like at Jerry's World. So it's not a foreign concept to do fights in those massive arenas. It's just, like you said, you're looking at ants.
It's hard enough to see it in a hockey stadium if you sit at the top.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would want to. I guess just the energy and the atmosphere is unmatched, but you won't be able to see anything.
I'm not going to lie, and Bo Nickal has been extremely impressive, but I was curious, like, what would the odds on this fight look like, should it come to fruition? And you sent it to me earlier this week about, should this fight take place, what the prices would be like, at that point in time. And it's looking like Khamzat Chimaev would be the -190 favorite on the money line to win the fight. The comeback on Bo Nickal, who's been a daunting force, he'd be the underdog at +160. I would have no idea how I would bet that fight right now, if I'm being honest with you, because there's something about Khamzat that just like is awe-inspiring, but I feel the exact same way at Bo Nickal. And so it's like my gut tells me just take the dog. We'll see if this fight ever happens. But also the other side of me is saying -190 for Khamzat Chimaev, who's essentially not blinked in his career. I mean, you could really make a strong case either way for these guys.
Yeah. I mean, we've actually had this price up for quite a bit. We have a few other ones too with Chimaev. So just to put it in comparison with this, he would be -140 favorite against Kamaru Usman, and he would be a -140 favorite also against Robert Whittaker, who we just saw lose last weekend.
Interesting. He hasn't fought since September, so it's been a little while. I know he's due for a fight here. We'll see, man. I would love to see Khamzat Chimaev and Bo Nickal throw down the octagon. I think that would be. I need one of those Dana White special announcement tweets, at X amount of time, just to see him go crazy on his little video over there. But we'll see if it ever comes to fruition. Shall we move along to the gridiron, my friend? And for preference sake, you've got some NFL start bench cuts, and I have no idea what they're going to be. So in the words of the great Bill O'Reilly, we'll do it live.
Yeah, so I just tossed this together right before. So we got to find something to talk about when there's no sports going on. And the old reliable is NFL hypothetical questions. That's just a great way to get a conversation, arguments going. If you saw the episode last week, we can get in plenty of arguments about NFL, pretty much about anything. But first, I'll start with I've got quarterbacks, I've got wide receivers, and I've got running backs. Let's start with the quarterbacks. So I've got Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, and Lamar Jackson. Start bench cut.
Trevor Lawrence, Lamar Jackson, and Justin Herbert. Oof, you're really doing me dirty on this.
I know Lamar is your guy, but
he is my guy, and now I'm trying to figure out a way that I can possibly not start him. I'm starting Lamar Jackson. That's my guy. Big trust. I got to start Lamar Jackson. He's the most dynamic player I've seen in a long time. He's a new age Michael Vick, and if they use him properly, I think he's more dynamic than any player potentially in NFL history. I really do believe that. So I'm starting Lamar Jackson. I got to bench Herbo, and I can't it's crazy to me to say that I'm going to cut Trevor Lawrence, but I'm going to have to cut Trevor Lawrence because Justin Herbert's upside is there. I have a soft spot for Lamar. I feel like a lot of people would probably swap the two, but I love Lamar. So I will start Lamar, I will bench Justin Herbert, and I will cut Trevor Lawrence.
I think I'm going to do the opposite of you, backwards.
Ooh.
So I'm going to start Trevor Lawrence.
Whoa.
Herbert, and I'm going to cut Lamar.
You're cutting Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I see these guys on a winning team because, I mean, last year, Herbert, we all saw he struggled and some things, but I felt like he was playing hurt the entire season. But when he was healthy and when he wasn't healthy, he looked incredible. So I've got to keep him on the team. And then I think this is as evenly matched as it can get for quarterbacks. But I'm going to go with starting Lawrence.
You know, there's only one guy of those three that's won an MVP.
It's true. It's been a while before all those guys were in the league.
That's a good point, but I don't know. That was a good one. All right, which one's next?
All right, receivers. We got one of your guys in here too. So it's CeeDee Lamb, DK Metcalf, and Terry McLaurin.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm starting CeeDee.
All of these are really hard to wear.
Yeah,
like you could go any way, and it's not.
I'm starting CeeDee. I feel like Dak has also failed CeeDee. I feel like CeeDee Lamb is a lot better than he has shown so far. I mean, even in Madden, I can't complete a freaking 15-yard comeback route with Dak Prescott on CeeDee. It drives me insane. So it's like if you had CeeDee Lamb with any of the three quarterbacks that you talked about before, I think the opinion of CeeDee Lamb is a lot different. So I will start CeeDee Lamb because I think he's dynamic and he's my guy, and I think he's the best of the bunch of those guys that you listed. I have a soft spot for the big body receiver. I love the big body receiver that could just run the fly route down the sideline, go up and grab a ball. So I'll bench DK Metcalf, or I'll make him my wide receiver too. And I think Scary Terry's a fun player, plays for my division rival. Fun player. I don't think he's as impactful as CeeDee Lamb or DK Metcalf, so I'll cut Scary Terry.
You know, when I was thinking about this one, every time that I thought I had a good spot for one of these guys, I looked at the other one and had to change my mind. So I feel like I've changed every single time, but I might go backwards again.
You're going to start?
I'm going to start Terry McLaurin.
What?
I'm going to bench DK Metcalf, and I'm going to cut CeeDee Lamb.
I think you just say this stuff to get a rile out of me, to be honest. In what world are you cutting CeeDee Lamb of those three?
Because Terry McLaurin is so reliable, and if you talk about the quarterbacks, how Dak Prescott has failed CeeDee Lamb, look at the quarterbacks that Terry McLaurin has had and the numbers he's been able to put up with, you know, guys like Tyler Heineke and Carson Wentz. I think if you put him on one of a team with a real quarterback, I think he would be top 5 wide receiver in this league.
I mean, damn. I'm surprised you would keep DK over CeeDee at that point, though.
I'm in the same way as you were on the big body receiver. I mean, he's completely jacked. He's probably the fastest out of those three receivers. Intimidating.
Yeah,
intimidation factor. If he's benched, if he's on the bench, you got him on the sideline, and you see the other team come in like the old high school or middle school days, and they've got some completely ripped guy on the sideline. That's the intimidation factor. So
I don't know, man. That little CD, little look he does after they get the first down. I'm a fan. But all right.
We want to move on to the running backs?
Yes, let's do the horses.
Also, I mean, they're all equally as hard, I think. But we're going to go Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, and Saquon Barkley, arguably the top 3 running backs.
So I actually just had a debate about this a little bit with my friends the other night. I am starting Derrick Henry of those 3. And I know he's a little bit older now. Give me the bell cow running back. Same thing as DK Metcalf, even though I benched him. I love the big guys. I want a guy that can just put his head down and just barrel forward. I mean, you're talking about a guy in Derrick Henry who helped take the Titans to the AFC Championship game a few years ago with Ryan Tannehill as his quarterback. That's value right there. So I would go Derrick Henry as my starter. I will bench Christian McCaffrey because you can't start Christian McCaffrey because he gets hurt every 5 plays. So we'll use Christian McCaffrey, pick and pop some nice spots, and Saquon Barkley, New York Giant. That's all I got to say.
So you're cutting Barkley?
Yes, I am.
I'm going to go with the same thing as you, except I'm going to switch McCaffrey and Henry. So I'm starting McCaffrey because he's a threat from literally anywhere on the field. He could be your number 1 receiver, your number 1 rusher. And then Henry, just because he's that big body that you can give the ball every single down. I'm going to give him the bench so you can bring him out on the goal line and third down. And then Barkley, I'm just cutting because he's not those two guys. That's about it.
I'm with you, man. And I think Barkley's fun, but we've seen how the running back position kind of plays out over time, and he's got the contract dispute. I just think you could make more of an impact with the other two.
Definitely, yeah, especially McCaffrey, who could line up pretty much at any position and make an impact. And I think he's probably the most valuable running back in the whole NFL.
Yeah, I'd say that's a good one. So, all right, those are fun. I always like doing those. So your quarterback was Trevor Lawrence, your receiver is Scary Terry, and your running back is Christian McCaffrey. My quarterback is Lamar Jackson, my receiver is CeeDee Lamb, and my running back is Derrick Henry. All three, I mean, either one of those teams.
So maybe we're going to have to put out and say who's the better team with all of our starters.
Let us know at SuperBook Sports, at Media by AP, and SuperBook Unit. But, yeah, we'll see how it shakes out. All right, let's move along to thumbs up and thumbs down. We'll each give a thumbs up take and a thumbs down take. I'll let you start, my friend.
My thumbs up this week is UFC 290. I mean, we're at that time where it's a slow sports week or it's slow time of the year. But everybody came together and watched this card. It exceeded my expectations. You had big upsets. You had huge knockouts, first-round knockouts. You had complete wars for the belt. It exceeded my expectations. You saw all the – I've never seen this many stars at a UFC event. They would show, like, all the guys sitting around the octagon. Every single one is like an A-list celebrity or a current athlete or one of the best fighters in the UFC. So UFC, as popular it is and how much we love it, and we watch it every weekend, I feel like a lot of casuals and people who haven't been exposed to the sport tuned in this week, and I think this event alone is going to grow the sport quite a bit because everybody watched, and it was incredible. It was great for International Fight Week, so that's my thumbs up. So
my thumbs up for the week, kind of playing off the same theme as you did, is MLB All Star Weekend. And for a couple of different reasons. Because I think collectively, the Derby was a success, the Futures game was a success, and the game itself was a success. We talk about the youth movement. Seattle's kind of a cool environment. But it's also because I think the Major League Baseball All-Star festivities, the weekends as a whole, is the best all-star festivity in all of professional sports. I mean, you've seen the NFL essentially punt on the Pro Bowl. The NBA All-Star game is at like 9 o'clock at night on a Sunday, and it's awful. The three-point contest is awful. The dunk contest is nowhere near what it used to be. And hockey, it's fine. Doesn't move the needle for me. But I think collectively, there's a little bit of that charm still with the Major League Baseball All-Star game. And I know that the game doesn't matter for home field advantage in the World Series, but this All-Star game in particular, Ohtani, Home Run Derby, Elias Diaz, I'll give it 2 thumbs up. I think the All-Star weekend for Major League Baseball was a big, big W. And like I said, I think it's the best all-star set of all-star festivities in the 4 major professional sports in the U.S.
Yeah, by far. It's not even close. It's the only one that I could live with, or I could live without all the rest of them. Like I haven't watched every single one of, MLB or definitely the Pro Bowl. I don't watch it all. But NHL and NBA, I don't have to tune into those. MLB, I make sure that I'm on the couch to watch both the Home Run Derby and the All-Star game. And it's by far the best when it comes to like the skills challenge and everything for the Home Run Derby. That could change if the NFL brings back those quarterback challenges they used to do. Those were pretty sweet, but I highly doubt they're ever doing anything like that again. And why don't they I want them to bring back the regular uniforms. I know they've got money to make with Nike and everything, but it was just so cool looking back at the old All-Star games where one teams would wear their gray uniforms, the other teams would wear their white uniforms, and it would be like kind of a, field of dreams type thing where it'd just be all the best players wearing their team uniforms, representing their teams. And the uniforms they make every year kind of suck. So bring back the old uniforms where you just wear your regular team uniform. Make it so much better.
I could not agree more. And that's why I talk about the baseball community. I'm pretty sure 90% of like real baseball fans feel that way. Like we're all, for the most part, traditionalists. We like the heritage, but the owners, they got to make their buck.
Maybe sell an ad to put on their jersey just so they can wear the regular ones.
I would
put a patch on the arm, and nobody buy the ridiculous all-star uniforms that they sell.
Yeah, I am in agreement with that. All right, thumbs down. Where are you going?
I'm gonna go with sports right now. Like I said, I mean, it is, I guess, kind of relaxing that you don't have to tune into something, but it gets that time of the night, I don't know what to do. So, I just go to bed at 8 o'clock or something because normally I got a game to watch. You got soccer, doesn't move the needle for me. WNBA, I like on occasion. But there's no MLB. That's what I want. It's just nothing to watch. So
boring.
My thumbs down. Having nothing to watch or bet on.
Fair enough. Betting, especially. I even opened up the
time
app
to look at like futures for the NFL and stuff though. So
yeah.
I'll say that is kind of a plus. So maybe that's a thumbs sideways.
Thumb sideways. All right, for my thumbs down, and I'm going to take the little bit of reporter that I have in me and more so look at this from a complete fan perspective. The way that these players are wrapped in bubble wrap in NBA Summer League. Victor Wembanyama, 2 games. Scoot Henderson, shut down. Like, I feel like, and I actually think Summer League is like the NBA's version of spring training, where it's like this cool little fun event. Like, it's usually not too expensive to go to in Vegas. I like the whole concept of Summer League, but when it just turns out to be, like, I remember one year I was covering the Nuggets in the Summer League and Jimmer Fredette was on the team. And this was like 2017. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, way past, like, the Jimmer Fredette mania. So I just think that the Summer League could be so much more if these players treated it as something with depth and benefit and all that kind of stuff. We've seen the NBA get, kind of creative with this in-season tournament. The NBA playoffs are fantastic. I feel like a little bit more TLC for Summer League could go a long way and really help bridge the gap in this dead period, as you just talked about. It's just a shame when you get to see Victor Wembanyama and all these young picks for about 30 seconds, and then you got to wait till the season starts.
Yeah, I think it's really only cool if you go and see it in person because, like, the stars go to the game. So if you go, you're just walking by, like, some of these star players, coaches, media members. I had much more interest in it last year because I went and I was, being in that environment was really cool and it's pretty cheap, like you said. And then this year I didn't go to it, so I've had no interest because, I don't know, it's got to be like the smallest percentage of guys playing in a sports preseason that actually make it to play in the pros. It's got to be. I only recognize like 1 or 2 guys on each team, so yeah, it just doesn't gauge a whole lot of my interest. I guess it's fun hearing now when you got one of the lottery picks playing, but like you said, they only play for like the first game or something.
Yeah, I feel like a little bit more love, make it a little bit more of a big deal, and I feel like you got something fun on your hands there. But all right, man, there's 5 topics for you guys in the middle of summer with no sports going on. Hopefully we did a good job. Unit and I are both baseball guys. Like, imagine if we didn't like baseball. We would be probably taking the week off, honestly, because people that don't know how to talk baseball, it's like learning a new language, in that sense. So
I think we could have done 30 minutes of the start bench cut, though.
I think I could have. Yeah, I could have done 30 minutes on that. I could have done 30 minutes on looking at the 2012 NL and AL rosters and just going down memory lane with that. So always a blast chatting with you, brother. And thankfully next week we'll have some lines, some odds, and all that good stuff of games going on at night to bet on once again. As Unit talked about, you can still go on that SuperBook Sports app and look towards NFL futures. Hey, NBA, NHL futures, or if you want to make those bets, second half of Major League Baseball season, you can do all that right now on the SuperBook Sports app. And don't forget to use my promo code APBETS. You'll get yourself a bonus up to $250 when you sign up, deposit, and place a wager in the same day. Available in Colorado, Nevada, and plenty of other states across the U.S. of A. Brother, any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
I stand by my red zone take, and I always will. So I stand alone on that mountain, but I'm proud of it.
You you're not a sheep. I can respect that. You're an independent thinker, a free thinker, and free country, you could say what you want. You're entitled to your opinions. I just happen to think it's the wrong opinion. But we can get into this debate as football season gets closer. But to each their own, my friend. But good stuff. Another episode of the Fast Five in the books for Unit in Nevada. I'm AP in Colorado. You can follow him at SuperBook Unit. I'm at Media by AP. Get those bets in with SuperBook Sports, and we'll chat with you guys next week.